My name is Rachel. I'm 36. I live in Tennessee, and I chose my living room to do this video in. It's definitely, to me, the most central place in the house. It has lots of textures, lots of collections, pictures. We call this our tacky gold frame thrift shop art wall. So it has lots of items from over the years. It has a record player, instruments, and fireplace, my globe collection, just lots of different things that make me feel very at home and like I've created a space where our family can gather and feel comfortable and tell stories. And I'll give you sort of a little tour of it, I guess. I'll just swing the camera around so you can see. There's a lot of natural light in here. And look into my office, which is very dirty, kind of a mess. But you can see some of the collections and the fireplace and the mantle with the disco ball and some postcards from museums that we've gone to and just some kind of eclectic things. Looks into the dining room. Try not to trip here as I sit down. To me, sensuality is definitely, it's definitely the capacity to be very engaged in a moment, whether it's being engaged in an art exhibit or in a conversation with someone who's important to you or someone who you're meeting for the first time. I think it's the ability to fully interact with all of your senses. Even if it's just really, even if you're really just focusing on one or two, you're definitely engaged in that act. And I think that sensuality has changed a lot over the years in a very positive way. When I was much younger, and I know in my mother's, with my mother's generation, sensuality definitely was. Had a sexual edge to it. It was how a product made you feel sexy, or it definitely like sexualized people and products and places, and it really didn't have as full of a definition, I think, as it does now. It's definitely been more opened up to how things and places make you feel just as a person or emotionally, and not just sexually. And I do think that's a good thing, and it especially makes me happy because I have a 3-year-old daughter, and I would rather raise her during a time when sensuality is much broader than just pertaining to sex. The first object that I chose is, and this is, I realize, going to be backwards, or reversed, mirror reversed, but it's the Colossus Book of Poetry by Sylvia Plath. She's my favorite poet. It was a gift, and it's probably my favorite book that I have right now. It's a first edition. It's old, and it smells good. The pages are aged. I know a lot of people have flipped through it. It definitely embodies sensuality to me on lots of different levels. Sylvia Plath, as I said earlier, is one of my favorite poets. She took her own life, which is very sad, but her words definitely, remain, and they're strong, and I think that she was definitely a visionary when it came to her art. She definitely went out there, went against the grain, said things that a lot of other women wouldn't say, made decisions that a lot of other women wouldn't have made. And so when I engage with her words, it gives me a sense of strength and independence, and it motivates me. I'm also a writer, and it motivates me to want to share my words with other people instead of just keep them to myself, which is what I tend to lean toward, is just sort of holding it in. And she definitely was a don't hold it in kind of person. And I try to read out of that book once or twice a week, at least, minimally. On a good week, I'll try to read, a few poems a day or reread them. And I love her words. Her words really, really inspire me. That book engages my sense of smell. I love the way old books smells. They just smell to me like old libraries from childhood. So it has a very nostalgic, effect on me. It also engages my sense of touch. I love the way the pages feel in my hands. I'm very texture oriented, and there's just something about old pages. They have it's just a little more. It's just a little more texture than new books. When you buy a new book and the pages are, white and perfect, and no one's touched them but you. This just, you feel connected to all the people who have turned the pages before you, and there's sort of a wisdom there. And I appreciate that. It makes me feel sensual. My next product is this perfume that I bought at Anthropologie. It was not a gift. It was a gift to myself. I bought it for myself. I can't remember the name of it, but I wear it almost every day. I absolutely love the scent of it. It makes me feel incredibly sensual. It's got sort of a granny, like an old lady scent to it, if that makes any sense. And to me, that just makes me feel, wise, I guess, and mature, and like a woman, not a little girl. It reminds me of my grandmother. And even though my grandmother and I weren't very, very close, she had a rose garden, and we definitely had some interactions, and she was just a very smart, very, very smart, well-educated woman, especially for her time, and the way it smells reminds me of her, and gives me that connection to that time in my life, and just a connection to womanhood. It definitely engages my sense of smell. Obviously, it's a perfume, so that's what it's intended to do, but I also really, really love the way it looks. I leave it out on my bathroom sink on the vanity, and it's pretty. It's just very pretty. It's a very vibrant green, which is fresh, and it has floral cap, which is very feminine, and I appreciate the way it looks. My next object is also something that engages my sense of smell very much, but it's a Meyer's Clean Day counter cleaner, and it's in the orange clove scent. And I purchase it for myself all the time. Not always in that scent, but that is the scent that I really, really like. And when it's available, that's the one that I buy. It embodies sensuality to me because keeping the house clean for my family makes me feel sensual. It gives me that connection to motherhood, femininity that I really, really appreciate, and it makes me feel important. I know I have a job that needs to be done, and that it nurtures the kids being in a clean environment, and helps them stay healthy and keeps germs away. And all that, even though it's not sexy, but it's definitely sensual. It gives me that connection to my feminine side. I use it almost every day, or at least I should. I try to. And it also, and not just my sense of smell, even though it smells so good. The clove, it's very, very earthy scent. The citrus is fresh and clean, and again, healthy. But it also appeals to my sense of sight. I think the branding is lovely. It has a sort of an old letterpress look to it, and the colors aren't in your face. It's very visually, it's nice on the eyes. It's very nice on the eyes. I leave it on my counter. It's not one of those cleaning products that I feel has to be put away because it's ugly. It just, even if it sits out, it kind of goes with the rest of the house and the decorations and the design and stuff. So it really doesn't bother me if it gets left out, which is rare for cleaning products, I think. My next object is, let's see if I can reach it, Johnny Cash Johnny Cash vinyl. I don't even think people listen to CDs anymore. It is something that I bought myself, and it's very significant to me. Vinyl, just the scratchiness of vinyl is significant. It's very nostalgic. My dad used to listen to a lot of records, and so that sort of skipping and scratchy sound reminds me of childhood and just sitting in there with him when he was, reading and listening to music and engaging in those moments with him. And my mother as well, but mostly my father. He's the one who really listened to a lot of music. I also just the sound of Johnny Cash's voice specifically. It's just so soothing. It's very fatherly and very masculine, and the sound of it can motivate me if I listen to it at the beginning of the day, or it can help me unwind from listening to it, before bed or before bath. It makes me feel, as I said before, it makes me feel nostalgic and appreciative of having those moments with my dad where he was listening to music, and I really learned to appreciate lots of different styles of music from him, and the ability to appreciate it, whether it was rock and roll or jazz or classical music, all of those. And I probably listen to this multiple times a week. I, change out vinyls, but Johnny Cash is definitely my go-to when I'm listening to records. It engages my sense of sound, my hearing for sure, and my ears just drink it in. And again, I like the texture of the vinyl, over just downloading something on iTunes, or putting a CD in, or something from my era, doing the mixtapes. There's just something about the vinyl that's very soothing, and it engages sound in a different way for me. And my last product that I chose, I'm going to try, it's big, so I'm going to try to move the camera over this way somehow. But it is a cello. And this cello is particularly special to me. My fiance got it for me at a pawn shop in North Carolina. He knew that I've been wanting to play the cello again. I played it for years and years when I was little, and then I stopped playing. And it's something that I've always, talked to him about wanting to start doing again, but I just never had, made the commitment to buying a cello or looking for one. And it embodies sensuality to me for so many different reasons. The first and most obvious being that it was a gift from someone whom I love very, very much, and it made me feel special and important and heard. And I think all those things, especially as a woman, make you feel sensual. They open you up to somebody when you feel that connection, when you know that you're being listened to, when you know that you're being appreciated, and somebody's going out of their way to give you something that they don't have to give you, or provide something for you that there's really no need to provide. It's just something extra. And so I think on that level it's sensual. Also just the way it looks. Instruments, I think, especially classical instruments, and violins, cellos, guitars, they all have a very, just the shape of them. They're mysterious, they're beautifully built, and they make beautiful sound when they're played the right way. And I think that's a very sensual thing. I don't play this cello as often as I'd like to, but it's out in the dining room, actually, where there are a lot of instruments in there, and the kids go by and they'll play with it and stuff. They have access to it. I'd like to play it more, and I definitely intend to at some point, when I have a little bit more time, sitting down and actually relearning how to play it. It's something that I want to do. When I do actually sit down and play it, it just makes me feel, and I wish that I had a better word to use than happy, but it really does make me happy. It takes me away to other times. It makes me feel powerful, just knowing that I can get that sound out of an instrument. It's definitely a powerful thing, I think, to be able to create sound. And so that to me is very sensual. As far as other products, out there that speak to sensuality, or items. There is one item that I'm getting, and it's going to be my wedding band. And I find it sensual, not only because of what it represents, which is just, an eternity and a life with the man whom I love very much, but it's a snake ring. And I think the shape of the snake and the significance of it, in Victorian era, it was considered a symbol of eternity and trust. And I think that circularity is a very sensual, mysterious shape and has those qualities to it. So I'm excited about getting that. And that's definitely a product to me that speaks to sensuality on a lot of different levels. In my opinion, a brand that demonstrates sensuality very well is Anthropology. And I think that's the parent brand also to Free People and Urban Outfitters. But Anthropology specifically, I think, represents sensuality very well. Their clothes have a timeless look to them, but they're still modern. So I think any woman could really connect with those clothing. It's not just for really skinny women. It's not just for full-figured women. It really, I think, speaks to the modern woman because everything they have will pretty much look good on anybody depending on how you wear it. And there's something very beautiful about that, and that to me is sensual. Just that timeless quality of really wanting to drape a woman in something comfortable and beautiful, and not just sexy, but something that she can feel confident in her own skin, regardless of how she's built or what her job is, or whether she works outside of the home or whether she works at her home, whether she's has children or not children, married or unmarried, whatever path she's taken in life. I think that brand speaks to. And not just in their clothes, but they also have their, coffee mugs and journals, and everything sort of still keeps in line with the same goals, I think, of making women feel that way. And I think that's very sensual. And I think they do that really well, and not just in their clothing, but also in their branding. Their branding is very clean. It's fresh, and the font is, or the typography is fresh. It's not over the top. The colors aren't over the top and in your face. It's seamless, and I think that's very sensual.